I
Yeah.
never have this rule on me.
Well, that's the thing as well. The worst is when I'm like, "Hey guys, I'll host," and they're like, "No, it's okay, we'll host." And they don't host with GameHop. I'm like, Ugh. Okay. Good thing we've got this series on our hands to take my mind off the frustrations of being a caster. In the bottom right,
Exactly.
our red Terran player is INnoVation.
And in the top left, as the blue Zerg, it is Mr. soO.
This is actually kind of an intriguing one. soO put up a real fight against TY in some of the previous qualifiers. His ZVT, in the first time they played, soO looked really bad, right? Like, he kind of got stomped 2-0 in like maybe like 20 minutes, maybe it was like 30 minutes because one game was a bit longer, but TY was like always ahead, right?
Was that with the Eternal Empire game?
Um, what happened on the Eternal Empire game?
Um, Thors. The loss of Thors.
I don't think so. I think it was on. I can't remember because I've casted them twice, right? Because the
Hmm.
second time over was a best of five in a qualifying match, and C went down 2-0, put him up more of a fight, and then
I watched that one.
brought
Yeah.
it back all the way to like a game five game series, and it was definitely an improvement, but still for the most part, Ty looked in the games Ty won, he looked very comfortable.
It was
So
mech as well, no? Like a lot of
yeah,
mech from TY, yeah.
yeah, and it was after he won so easily with Bio the day before, because the first time he played Bio, I think, or maybe they played like Bio and a game of mech, but then it was like mostly mech on the second meeting. So it's kind of really weird to see that kind of switch so quickly from TY.
Alright.
So yeah, just a bit of info as to how soO's been doing. In general, has been looking good, but not kind of losing to anyone you wouldn't expect him to, but also not beating anyone you'd not expect him to beat right now.
Yeah,
soO's
makes
another one of
sense.
those players who just sort of shows up sometimes and beats everyone.
Like last year at Katowice.
Yeah, like last year at Katowice.
I'm still
Defending champ.
surprised he didn't just get an invite. I thought the reigning champ would get an invite.
They never invite the reigning champ from Katowice, right? Because they invite Dark from WCS. I guess the logic is that it's like a year-old result.
Yeah, but year old mate, I still want to defend my title.
Hmm.
To be
It
fair,
is
most
weird.
of these guys that win usually manage to qualify again, don't they?
Yeah. soO's just gonna break that streak apparently.
I don't think so. Oh, only had two links at home, loses one of them, which means two links will be making their way across the map. Should not be in time though to deal with this SCV, will they be? There's a marine there, so. Well,
Yeah, I mean, the biggest issue is the Scout and SCV took damage, so if the Scout and SCV has a bit more HP, you can actually just pull two SCVs to fight the Lings, and you don't lose anything. Now he loses one SCV, which is just a bit of a shame. Obviously, he finishes the CC for that, so it's like, okay, but, again, if you don't take damage on the Scout and SCV, you can pull that to tank the Marine, and it's just a little easier.
yeah, but he also got a full scout though, eh?
Yeah, that's the big thing, right? You get into the main base and you get to see the third CC this early in the game. So you know it's a one gas opening, which means that soO basically just has to make a few links to deflect Hellions, and outside of that, he can just be like mega greed mode.
Yeah, he really can be. It's mad.
So
When
Reaper's
we
gonna sit down the bottom of the ramp, wait for some Hellion backup as well, because link speed's about to kick in.
It's funny that INnoVation just rallies them across the map. After watching Cure play, he played so careful with the Hellions, just stayed at home majority of his games. So it's like, I don't want to die to no Ling run by. INnoVation doesn't give a crap. He's like, come at me with those links, my friend. I'll have my units on your side of the map, and I'll use them however I please.
Yeah.
Fusion core being added as well. So, ooh, this is a pretty cool build.
Very
Just a triple
greedy
CC
3CC style.
Viking. Yeah,
It's
that's so greedy.
because the battle cruise obviously will take an eternity to come out. So this is one of the scenarios where like a roach attack still works against a BC rush. We don't see it a lot now because Terrans figured out how to defend the roach attacks because they like the BC opening so much they had to figure out a way not to die while doing it, right?
Mm.
But this is like your BC is so late, and obviously it's risky as well after soO is scouted the 3CC because that alone oftentimes invites the roach rush. So it's very risky. This time INnoVation's going to get away with it. Fusion core about to be done. Rotron's going to finish. So he's making a lot of Overlord's mines. So he is freeing up a lot of supply, but he is going to build drones, okay. It's just too late to really build roaches and do anything significant with them, so just going to go roach speed and play like a more standard macro roach-based mid-game.
Yeah, exactly that. Wonder if we'll see an Overseer scout or something like that. I wouldn't mind that. On the other hand, I guess it's so rare to see a build like this that you kind of know what's coming with triple CC as being the Zerg, you know? All you
Yeah.
really need to do is just scout the gases on the third, and then you'll know if it's mech or not.
Yep.
No real need for an overseer, except this time there is a battle cruiser coming for him, so he probably wouldn't have minded knowing.
Yeah, and there's just like it's the lack of spores in the bases. Oh, he's gonna go Nidus though, soO. So he's still gonna make this aggressive. It depends where the BC is, because obviously if the BC is across the map and the queens are in the Nidus, then BC does a lot of damage. The BC will go across the map before the queens go in the Nidus though, so the queens will defend, and the BC's gonna have to fly home. If there's a BC at home, obviously against queens and come across the map, the repair generally keeps the BC alive as long as the roaches don't win out on the ground. But there's not really anything on the ground for INnoVation, so
4 Hellions.
yeah,
6 Hellions.
not looking great. But now the BC comes out and the first roaches get intercepted, so it's a small win. And the Viking has denied the Overlords so far, so you've got to wait for this Overseer to come over. And the Viking's going to see that too, so he should see the the Nidus right away, and he could teleport on the Nidus with the BC, try and target it down faster.
And he actually has a tank on the way as well. Oh, he does not spot this first Nidus though. First Nidus is outside of the main base.
Yeah, I think that's the right place, right, with how little there is for INnoVation. Because
yeah, but
you can
if Inno gets a tank on the high ground now, like close to the third, what's soO really gonna do to that? There's no high ground vision here. There's no overseers. Like this tank will basically be unbeatable. Right now, Inno is aware of what's happening. He does have Yamato cannon. Second battle cruiser is almost done as well. Oh, this first tank is moving down.
Yeah, the first tank's going to put itself in a dangerous position. Double BC is going to be interesting. The second tank now out as well. He's going to just siege and defend the natural, lift up the third base. Again, you just want to keep SCVs underneath the BCs, and then maybe you can just out-repair this. You will move one tank up to the high ground as well. Yeah, I think the BC's going to get a lot done. They do still have Yamatos to use, and obviously that should be a couple of insta-queen kills on the high-energy queens so that you get rid of some of the transfusions available. So, looks good for INnoVation.
Yeah, the only thing he's lacking is depots at the moment, as he won't be able to produce any units. But yeah, there's 4 tanks out. Yeah. This looks absolutely useless here for soO. Might be able to kill a couple of extra depots, but this was a good defense by Inno, who also has 2 armories done already and starting his upgrades right now. So he's really in a fantastic position as long as he does not die here. He's sieging very aggressively forward, and soO smells an opportunity here. We'll move forward, snipe 2 of the tanks actually.
But he loses so many roaches in doing it, right? So
yeah, but these roaches weren't going to be too useful anyway, and anything you can delay on that third base, I mean, it's going to be good to delay now.
Yeah.
We do have some Yamatos coming out soon again, and 3 more Yamato cannons is basically all queen spawn at this point. 1 is already ready, and even with just 3 BCs, this seems pretty difficult to fight for soO, who forgets to transfuse 1 of his queens that still has some energy as well.
Ooh, yeah, this is... Yeah, 3 BCs are just way too much damage output, and this is the thing, right? It all comes down to, I think, having that first BC not teleporting straight across the map, so it could come home and just help slow the units down. And that just gives you the chance to get the tanks up, and now you teleport across the map because you know there's very little anti-air, because you just blew up a bunch of the queens. You get Yamato down the Spire, he's going to Yamato down the Spore Crawlers. You can just target the Spire, and actually he's going to cancel and rebuild it, so... No Spire.
That has to be a mistake, you know?
Yeah, I think so, right? Like, it was going to survive maybe long enough to be built, to build a cover-up or 2. Yeah. It's almost
especially
like
with how low these BCs already were.
Yeah.
And he had like 2-3 transfusers ready as well. Like at least, okay, maybe at least 2 transfusers were ready, but not more than that. I still think that would have been enough to at least get the corruptors out. Now there's 14 more workers on the way for soO right now. But soO practically is lacking everything he needs. He has no creep spread, he has no upgrades, he doesn't have a Spire, no corruptor count. Doesn't have the worker count he really wants to be at. Well, actually 79 is not too bad. Still on 7 gas though, not 8 gas yet. And he's not on a hive, so... Yeah, I'm not quite sure what the plan of soO is here, who's walking into the natural with a bunch of Ravagers, as there's a Nidus in the main base.
Yeah, moving around and Roach is pressing through. I mean, these BCs haven't been repaired yet, so they're kind of low. Use the SCVs to get on that ASAP as a couple of Yamatos are going to come down. Just going to scare soO back into that Nidus network, and so he's just not really doing much. At least now he's going to finish that Spire, and he can build up Corruptors. 11 Corruptors come up instantly here. They're also already on 4 BCs, so almost a third of those Corruptors die. Almost almost instantly from the BC shots.
Yeah, that's pretty wild. I like the queen still on the main base, by the way. Not sure what he's doing, but I appreciate the effort from this guy.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, well.
Good luck, maybe next year.
Did absolutely nothing, actually.
No, it looked cool. Could have spread some creep, force a scan or something. We do have a scan coming out of Inno, who sees the Spire right now. Sees it's researching something as well, and the first store gets started immediately. 4th CC is floating over towards that forward location, set it up with a planetary most likely. You have another battlecruiser on the way, so he really keeps the battlecruiser number high here. And I like it, because every time he's gonna go in with these BCs, he'll at least trade out some of the corruptors, then he can just teleport home. And at this point, with how many he's getting, he might actually be able to fight them as well. I mean, if he can snipe 4, how many is there really left? There's gonna be 10 left with 4 BCs.
Yeah.
Oh,
Ooh, now he loses
teleports
BC.
all of them.
Wow. One BC got away on 6 HP, so only just able to get out there.
Calculated.
Yeah. Well, this army pushing forward from soO. I mean, this is 80 workers, yes. It's going to actually kill off CC. SCP is difficult to repair it, so it's a little bit of a shame. Obviously, INnoVation overall feels like, you know, it's Roach Ravager Corruptor. Over time, this army needs something else in it. Otherwise, it's going to be, well, just not that great at all. He's going to have to pull a couple units over here to protect this orbital now. Should really be preemptively repairing that just in case it did continue to caustic spray, but looks okay. Let's see, we'll back away.
The sick thing with the caustic spray is that it doesn't look that dangerous at the start. So you're like, I have some time. Yeah. And then after 3 seconds, when the increased DPS kicks in, it's like, never mind. I did not really have any time left whatsoever. So I think like 34 per second or something like that, or 36 per second. Absolutely mad.
It's actually, it goes up so fast as well. As you're going to see this push up the ramp, obviously with tanks here, those roaches should never go up there. But also help against the Corruptors, as we do see a couple of those getting picked away at as well. And the army from soO pulling back. He has a good group spread here because of the creep that he's been able to establish from the Nidus network. So have to creep out the front going one way and the other. And again, INnoVation having to rebuild a 4th base, losing that before, has kept him down on 3 bases. And that does probably keep soO in the game at the moment, because if Inno was on 4 bases defending, this army really is just getting, you know, wasted out. But right now, soO's building up a bank, whereas Inno is just not minding that little bit extra he'd like to be.
Yeah, it's weird how this game progressed, honestly. It's still, like, I still feel like Inno is in a good position, obviously, but he hasn't really been able to continue upgrades in the way that he was before. Like, his 1-1 was so fast, but then for the past 2 minutes, no extra upgrade. Right now he's moving forward with a part of his army, but there's no tanks there really to back him up. Right now he's pulling back into the tanks. A lot of the roaches are going down, but Corruptor sniping down BCs as well. This is a good trade for soO, who just wants to spend his money, right?
Yeah, because soO's just going to rebuild the exact same set of units, and obviously INnoVation can't do that because it's extremely expensive. All of these BCs go down, apart from, ooh, that one just escapes away. Slight misjudgment from soO. Probably could have chased for it. But at the end of the day, you just rebuild roaches, you're instantly remaxed, still with a bank in hand. And yeah, maybe it wasn't the prettiest trade ever, but you're going to go again here very soon, as INnoVation is trying to stretch out to defend 4 bases. I think that's where you really just break through and win this game as soO, possibly.
Yeah, it's some weird engagement we've had from INnoVation at this point. I feel like he really should have been able to do better. Like, he was maxed that fight as well. Just his tanks were kind of out of position. A lot of his army wasn't there for the initial fight. And now soO is just absolutely going to collapse on top of Inno, who has 4 tanks remaining, 1 battlecruiser which gets shot down immediately. I think soO might just win here now.
Yeah, I think that's what we're expecting, right? Just reinforcements coming through. The Corruptors will now go caustic spray down a base. So INnoVation is just going to be losing more economy, but it doesn't matter anyways, right? He has 0 units left at all. That's going to be GG for soO to take game number 1. Already quite well established.
Mm-hmm.
You know, having owned one of the biggest channels on the European Battle.net, it affected me greatly as well. Rest in peace, SE2 Improve. Yeah, people still use that chat channel. It's actually crazy.
Are you bragging?
No, I'm in actual disbelief that people use a chat channel in StarCraft still, on a regular basis.
Sounded like a brag. Alright, boys. In the top right, spawning as the blue Terran. The man who seemed to be winning game 1, but then he lost. It is INnoVation.
What a brag.
And in the bottom left, spawning as the blue Zerg. the man who seemed to be losing game 1, but then he won. It is soO.
Like, my chat channel is so much bigger than yours. Get on my level, bro. Yikes. You know what though? It seems like the sort of thing someone would argue with on, use as an argument on our StarCraft. Like, you know, well, more people joined my chat channel, so therefore I'm better than this guy. And Terran is embarrassed.
Exactly, Wardy. That's completely true.
It's the way of our StarCraft, man. Game 2. Do you think INno plays mech again? Honestly, mech feels more and more like it's being figured out, and more people are stopping teching up against it, just kind of building like Roach Ravager, Corruptor, and I know INno kind of messed this one up a little bit, but like that's just what Zergs have been doing, just like staying aggressive and being able to bust through those kind of positions. It's we've definitely seen a resurgence in bio lately, so it'll be interesting to see if INnoVation has jumped on that kind of bio wave, or if he really is just fully committed to mech style.
Yeah, it's weird to see, because for a while the Zergs were really complaining hard, and all the win rates of the Terrans on the ladder were insane. But then when you look at the tournament, it's like the Zergs save their good strategies for the tournament, and then they win. It's like, oh, it's pretty sick.
Yeah.
You know, you really haven't seen a lot of mech play. Like almost everything I've been watching recently has been bio.
Yeah.
And yeah, the mech, I mean, hasn't been performing too well. Now, of course, soO is very difficult to survive against as well. Like, he's insane at mid-game timings. So, like, mid-game timing after mid-game time. Like, he never leaves the mid-game, you know? Like, in the late game, he's still playing the mid-game, which is, you know, difficult to deal with if you're not completely solid. Ooh,
Yep.
very fast 3CC once again by INno, by the way.
Yeah, it doesn't change up from his start from the first game yet. Obviously, fast 3CC has a few different ways you can open. It doesn't have to be, you know, starport, fusion core, and go from there. But he has positioned an SCV to build a starport, which suggests it's at least going to be the starport early rather than like a tech lab on the barracks and stim pack. Apparently didn't like where the barracks was placed there, moves it back a little bit. So yeah, starport will drop down. You got no tech lab on the racks. Basically, I think already means this is probably going to be a fusion core along the way with this, so INnoVation probably, I mean, in fairness, should be happy with the way the game opened, right? The game made, you know, was looking really good for him at first. It's just afterwards it fell apart a bit.
Maybe he just plays single BC this time into bio. Also possible, of course.
Yeah,
Not
that's
quite as
also
common anymore, though, is it, these days?
Well, it's taken off a bit with bio having a resurgence, right? It's especially one of those builds though where, because when they started doing it, everyone was expecting them to keep building BCs and going mech, right? So for the first few days, everyone kind of died because suddenly 16 Marines show up and you're building Corruptors. So yeah, it's kind of not super common. I feel like off the 3CC as well, it's very rare to see, because again, everything just comes up so much later off the super fast 3 base. So first your battle cruiser is later, then your barracks would be even later, and that just takes so much of the momentum away from bio.
Right.
So even though you have like a stronger economy, it's like, well, great, the Zerg also has troops spread out into the middle of the map. You know, they've got, you know, everything they want. That's fine when you're playing as mech, but with bio, it hurts a little bit more. And as we see extra gases here, I think mech is pretty much confirmed already. So you see some more Hellions coming up, tech lab on the starport, and a burrow upgrade started and cancelled. Not sure what that was from soO, maybe just a misclick on the hat trick. And if I can just look around the top looking for any overlords. There's actually a second one here, which he's so close to getting. It's just a bit to the left, but he's not going to go that way, so it's always just a little bit of guess and hide and seek with that. And there is the extra factories dropping down. So again, we'll be moving towards mech, so INnoVation not swayed by the way the first game went.
That's weird.
Yeah.
I feel like if you get this far ahead and then still lose that hard. On the other hand, it is World of Sleepers, which is commonly known as the worst map for bio in the world. Which I really need to talk with some high-level Terrans, because this is the best of 3. Like, why are they playing this map? Like, everyone always tells me this map is absolutely impossible to win against Zerg as Terran, so I'm curious as to why it stays in so much.
It is a shorter map, at least, to push across, which is like the one benefit for Terran, right? So you can get a bit of the push going and keep it going quite easily. But you're also pushing in towards like a massive concave, essentially. Like, it's just such an open area when you get towards the forward base, and you know, the other bases, there's not a lot of easy bases to push into, basically. The one that you arrive on most quickly has a really open space, and if the Zerg takes the other ones, they're kind of like up the left side of the map, so you're pushing across a long way off where you want to go, and there's no like direct path there either. You've got to clean up rocks, you got to go down a ramp and up a ramp, and all sorts of shenanigans as BC number 2 starts. So INnoVation just keeping this exactly the same as the first game so far. I mean, arguably, maybe he got really far ahead in the first game. He says, well, I know what I did wrong. I know what to change for game 2, right?
Yeah, but you can't expect a similar position again. Or at least, reasonably, you can't expect that. Now, we do have the Spire once again on the way. Spire's almost finished, and there's a lot of money in the bank, so that could be 9 Corruptors, perhaps. 9 Corruptors on the way right now. So the +1 has started as well for soO. And double armory once again going down for INnoVation. soO staying on 69 drones for now, as he's getting his forward base. Rather late, I have to admit. But yeah. I guess that's kind of normal when you get a Spire first and 10 Corruptors. You don't really need that forward base because you don't have the drones to saturate it yet.
Yeah, and you need the Corruptors, right? Because the sooner the Corruptors come out, the less these BCs are going to do. This has been pretty passive BC play from INnoVation. Like, even the first one didn't go across. Because I think of the way you open, because it's like very late BC, it's not so much about harassing early. You know, the 3rd CC so early in the game helps you be in position to play anyways. It's more so just about getting that BC count up and then use them in the traditional way you use them later in the game. Some more BCs coming out here, and I mean, soO just this time does have an infestation pit down already, so has the choice to go up to Hive. If he wants to go in towards maybe some Vipers or so, or continue teching elsewhere, you could also go into Swarm Host, of course, which is one of the more common ways of playing against mech if you're not going to go for that kind of big Corruptor Ravager bust. So Swarm Host it will be, and we'll see how well INnoVation can deal with this. He's going into Infernal Pre-Ignite, so that's, you know, step 1 of dealing with this, getting Blue Flame. And then the next step is obviously try and shut down Nidus if you can, but mostly just being in good positions and making sure you've got Hellion support for those Locusts. Because if the Locusts, you know, get eaten by Blue Flame Hellions, they really don't do very much.
Definitely true, as we see Inno trying to get something done with these Hellions, but soO saying no, not today. Creep thread is amazing, by the way. Look at that.
Yeah.
8 minutes, 35 seconds in game. Like, he doesn't even need Nidus, he can just walk wherever he wants to with these Swarmos, it feels like. This creep thread's actually insane.
All over the map. As you see the Swarmos coming up to the upper right side. Maybe gonna get aggressive here initially, but I mean, everything is here. Even the BCs are here to help out, kind of, you know, shut down some of those Locusts ASAP. So don't see this doing much, but at the same time, you're keeping the Terran pinned back. The Bane Nest is on the way, so you're improving that composition a little bit. With the splash damage coming through for the future.
Ideally, you'd want to be trading already, right? The moment you have a Locust up, you want to be using
instantly, right? Like, there's no reason to wait. The longer you wait, the less Locusts you get throughout the course of the game, and the worse this goes for you. So, finally coming forwards now, he gets 1 tank right from the start, make that 2. Couple of tanks to start, not bad.
Kind of reasonable for how much was there. It's like literally his whole army, and he still gets 2 tanks, and like, I'd be pretty happy with that trade. That's like 20 halberds there, mate. Like, it's not bad to start with.
That's probably the benefit of waiting, by the way. Like, we have, you know, not going with just the first 8.
Yeah, I guess you do that if you can pull them apart more with Nidus. But this is really a frontal attack without the Nidus. I guess this makes a lot of sense. Good point. The 3 Thors, 2-2 is on the way for Inno right now as well, who is actually closing in. Well, he's practically maxed at this point. 1 more unit and he is maxed. Beauty of Magnus, we have the second Swarm Host wave coming in, jumps in as well, and Battlecruiser barely managed to survive. That wave did nothing.
You got a tank, I think.
Yeah, practically nothing.
Yeah, it's obviously, it's like, it doesn't, you know, theoretically it doesn't cost you anything to fire those Locusts, but you've still invested into a lot of Swarm Hosts, and over time, if they're not really doing much damage, you know, eventually they do wear off, they do become worse. You know, they don't do as much, so... Yeah, nice for INnoVation. I'm still just, I mean, look at the creep though, right? You know, you mentioned before, now it's actually knocking on the basis of INnoVation. soO can't push it further forwards, because if he does, it's going to get blown up by siege tanks already. So, INnoVation at some point is going to have to get through that creep spread as he morphs in the Hellbats here. Locust going to dive again in for the siege tank, and again, only just gets the single one.
I'm surprised he didn't go for the right side there. It's really quite vulnerable right now. This is the annoying part being Inno, is that you're more spread out, which means that you can't really have all your Hellbats in one position. So I think the right side is a viable target at this point. Problem for soO is that he isn't quite aware at all times where the army is, of course. He doesn't know what the split is, but perhaps with some changelings he can get some info. Wouldn't mind seeing an Overseer or two being added just for that purpose before you send in the Locust Wave. Good scan by Inno, scans the Swarmos, knows where they are, and moves his Hellbats in position rather quickly. Just if you don't be able to do anything.
BZ's coming through and dropping a bunch of Yamatos down on the Corruptors. We do see the Hellbats coming in to pick off some Locusts as well. So again, just really not much being done. BC's by the Yamatos, get out of there, and I mean, it was now starting to actually press forwards and towards the creep a little bit. He's actually, with the Hellions alone, just going to come and jump on top of these Ravagers and Roaches. I mean, a few Thors now showing up as well. I mean, this is obviously, just saying, well, it's kind of weird because, like, he doesn't have, like, a lot of spare money. So he's just given up a lot of the Hellions. And maybe now the next wave of Locusts could do a bit more because there's only 6 Hellions on the map.
That was not a good move.
Yeah.
First of all, you don't want to trade evenly at this point because soO's bank is just going to be so much bigger. Second of all, you need those Hellions to deal with the Locust Wave. Like, this Locust Wave might be able to do a little bit more damage. We'll get a tank immediately. It still only gets a single unit. So similar damage being dealt. I guess the Tor almost went down. So that's kind of nice. But yeah, that was a mistake by Inno. I think he realized it as well. He's rebuilding a bunch of Tors though. So he's actually switching out of that bigger Hellion count. How many Hellions is there on the map? There's 6 Hellbats on the map and there's 2 more in production. And at this point, Inno is maxed. Now what Inno needs to start doing now is start adding command centers, getting orbitals, and getting rid of some SCVs, right? Like his worker count is simply too high.
Yeah. There's needs to have enough army to actually take on the Zerg. Because again, like you say, you want to trade really well here, and that doesn't happen when you go like a smaller army as well, right? It gives the Zerg more of a chance to just kind of sweep you. These Locusts do a lot more, by the way. You mentioned this right side being more vulnerable, and this time it really got abused as well. The few Hellbats that were out were over to the left, and last time he gets what, 3 tanks and very nearly a 4th. So yeah, really nice stuff. As INnoVation is gonna try and build, command center number 6. He's on 5 bases. This just doesn't feel like it because he's under so much pressure and kind of pinned in to his top right side of the map.
Yeah, it really does not quite feel like it, and we're just waiting for the next Locust Wave at this point. I mean, how many Hellbats is there? 0 Hellbats right now. Which means it's pure Tor tank battle cruiser and 84 workers. Look how much there is in production for Inno as well. That's the painful thing with Mech, is how long the units take to build and how much supply they take up. And I think at least 1 more tank will end up falling here. Maybe a second will, well, once again, barely doesn't go down. I hope INnoVation does decide to repair that, as it's nice to preserve your units, but he's actually starting to build a little bit of a bank. So of course, it's a downside to have a smaller army, but the upside is that you mine way quicker, and if you have the bases available to you, then yeah, that's real nice. You can definitely keep going in that case, and you can take some trades every now and then, throw away 15 Hellions.
But this is the stage of the game where it gets tough because for now he has those bases, but getting to a 6th base, he's going to swim out so thin, and so he has to take some better fights basically to get out there. Bane's come rolling in at the moment. There's Roach Ravagers to the right. I mean, he actually makes it work. He's the one that stays maxed out, albeit after starting up 5 more Thors. soO's not building anything yet. Maybe still trying to decide. He's going into a Great Aspire, but with this many Thors on the map, I'm not sure how much Broodlords are really going to help you out.
Yeah, look at the efficiency of soO, with those Swarmos, of course, helping a bunch there, but Unital's definitely in favor of him, and like you mentioned, if Inno doesn't manage to get a 6th and a 7th base now, he's actually going to be in trouble. His natural, his main, and his 3rd are practically mined out. His 4th still has a bunch of minerals, and so does his 5th, so he's still on a solid 2.5, 3.5 bases maybe. But he wouldn't mind getting a 6th up, and perhaps even a 7th. Top base is trying to get taken. I don't understand why the Corruptors aren't going there, honestly. This seems like a very easy target for the nasal spray.
Yeah, feels like they should have been up there a little while ago, as we do see the Locusts dropping down and towards the Thor tank army. One of the Thors in the front going down already. Even just Zerglings now causing an issue because well, when they get there, the tanks clean them up are dealing friendly fire damage too. So that's another fight, and resources lost is increasing in favor of soO. You know, it was what, like 3.5k before, now it's like almost 5k difference, or 4k difference. So
Yeah.
slowly but surely it's like sneaking up in soO's favor. So these fights are still good for him, while being on more bases, albeit, yes, mining a little bit slower than INnoVation. It really comes down to this top side base. Well, I guess INnoVation also taking the bottom right as well, so
Yeah,
just really
this
trying to
base
keep
is
the bases
really,
up.
really important right now. If he gets the mine from this, just take a look at the income with those, what is it, 6 mules mining. It's gonna pump up to like 3.5, maybe even 4k income in minerals. Like, Inno will be able to take a lot of fights here. And soO realizes that, throws a locust wave, and Inno is forced to leave, or to lift, and actually to leave as well with the mules for a bit. And we'll be able to drop it down once this locust wave is gone. And now Inno actually has a window to push on top of that as well. So we actually see him move across the map. He realizes he has a lot of time. There's no Banes yet on the map. There's 9 and there's 16 more on the way. So we're gonna get a decent Bane count here.
Nice little run by on the right side though. He knows that Command Center can't be a planetary, so just a few Zerglings deny anything from mining. At the same time, he's getting the top side base up, so maybe he can use that a bit, because it is difficult for soO to be all over the map. Tanks not siege, the first few Banes coming in. Here come the Locusts diving right in on the tanks. There's just no way to clean those Locusts up easily. So pretty much all the tanks that were sieged go down. And INnoVation will keep pushing though, because again, now you've got to wait for those Locusts to be back off cooldown. Although when they do come back off cooldown, this army is really going to be struggling to stay alive.
This road runner is actually an important structure. I guess roaches and, in this case, I guess some brood lords are the way to reinforce. But if you don't have the road runner, what are you really gonna reinforce with? Like, you can't really easily quickly build a couple of extra corruptors, then morph them into broods. Links are useless against this army, like the moment there's more than one hellbat.
The BCs find the broodlords on their own to the right hand side as well, so while there is a good Thor count to get rid of it, not having to worry about the broods is even nicer, because obviously they're busy trying to help out against the roaches and the swarm hosts, etc. Some Hellion is showing up, and this has been a good fight for INnoVation, so some of the Locusts dropped down ahead of time, so the tanks were able to splash them down, and INnoVation will keep on pushing forwards here into the natural expansion. DC's now in the third base as well. They're on top of the broodlords still. They should be able to kill those if they target them, so INnoVation's killing a lot, and well, now he's actually going to see the swarm host, and that might even be a better target considering what's currently on the map. The broodlords really aren't much of a threat anymore. The queen's coming in from the wrong side. The roaches on their own aren't doing much, and again, these BCs here to help out, even if they just pick off a few locusts when they're flying through the skies, anything right now goes big. He's actually just going to target down all the swarm hosts, even if it means losing the Thors.
Ooh, he doesn't actually have Adrenal glands yet on his lanes, which it doesn't really matter if there's hellbats out because they won't be able to do any damage. But we had a little fight there where Adrenal definitely would have helped. We see, I mean, there's still no road for, and there's a little bit of money left for soO, but his supply is so low. He has a small work account. He's been on a low work account all game, by the way. It's just that he hasn't really been losing anything. And now that the unit lost is basically equal, we see how much Inno has actually been mining. Look at that.
Yeah, this is actually
Absolutely
crazy.
insane. Especially if you consider the army value of Inno is also higher.
Yeah.
So he really has been, you know, he's been mining so much more than soO. Even though soO had way more base, he just didn't have the drone count because he wanted this big army to constantly collapse on top of Inno, but didn't work in the end. It looks like another local wave comes out, but GG gets called and INnoVation wins game number 2.
I don't know how I feel. I feel like for a long time I've kind of liked it, but I am ready to see it maybe leave now, because it feels like we see the same thing every game. Now people have figured out which bases to take and so on. Why aren't you a fan of it?
Oh, there's a massive ramp going down into the third, in the natural to third area, you know? It seems difficult to defend against Zerg sometimes. There's also some tricky spot against Terran, like the move that Inno did against Hurricane, where he picks up into the main. If he comes from that angle, it can be kind of difficult to defend. So, I don't know. It's just, I just haven't been a massive fan of it. It used to be actually a pretty bad map, but then they introduced some maps that were way worse. So now it's kind of turned into an okay map for TOS comparatively. You know, it's like, you know, there's so many worse that it's kind of okay. So I guess in that way it kind of became the new standard. But yeah, compared to some of the other maps we used to have, this map was pretty bad for TOS. So
maybe
that's why I don't like it.
Maybe it's more like Terran point of view then, because I feel like especially for like obviously TVP it seems quite nice, right? But then TvZ as well. it's kind of fun to watch. Like, you can take a more aggressive base, you can take one more laid back. You've got some good run by potential from the Zerg. You've got a few different ways you can push as the Terran. So in that way, it kind of feels quite fun and interesting, without really favoring one race so much more. Because there is really powerful positions for the Terran on this map with siege tanks in the middle. But if you push the middle hard, there's a lot of run by potential left and right. So
yeah, it's a cool map. It's a cool map. I agree. Just I've never been the biggest fan of it. So we have
Pullfest from soO is the most important. As it's only a couple of links for the moment, so nothing too crazy. And even the SCV coming across the map here. So INnoVation will scout, and will move down towards the natural to see what's going on, sees the couple of links, and that's immediately all the information you need, right? Because now you know it's pull first. It's kind of what the SCV is looking for. He's going to try and pull it away, pull it down here still. soO sees it coming though, so he's going to send the links after it. Not too eager to send those across the map. I guess INnoVation wants to see the hatchery just to check it's not gas ball.
Yeah.
Just double checking to see exactly what he is dealing with here. And I think,
I'm curious to see if we see the exact. No, wait, we're not seeing the exact same build order, are we? This guy is.
Gas.
Yeah, it's way earlier. About half a minute earlier. So I guess no quick 30C here for Inno. So this most likely goes into a faster BC, you would say?
Yeah, if he's going to play BC as a faster BC, there's maybe a couple of other ways he could open, depending on what he sees. Because it's pool first, he could go for like maybe a blind Banshee opening, just in case he's afraid of like a Roach follow-up.
Right.
But typically, you can also just go straight into BC. It depends what this Barracks does. Like, if the Barracks builds a Tech Lab, we're going to see Banshee. If it doesn't build a Tech Lab, we're probably just going to see a Fusion Core. Unless it's like a really wild, like, Medevac or a Viking. If you do that, you typically build the Tech Lab anyways, so you can fake the Zerg when they try and scout. Because then if they move in, you can like be like, oh, I saw Cloak. It's like, I'm making a Banshee. And then it's actually like a Medevac and the Hellion drop or something. With nothing building, this should just be the Fusion Core coming up. And then the Starport can build its own Tech Lab.
Oh, there we go. It is a Fusion Core indeed. It's really funny. He really tried to get. This is what you sometimes try to do, where you play very slow games 1 and 2, like very macro focused, quick triple CC, really late BC, and you kind of lull your opponent to sleep. Like they don't believe that you can do anything aggressive, and then the final game, you just up the tempo and all your timings hit like 10-15 seconds earlier, and it can really catch your opponent off guard, even though it's completely standard to play, right? Like it's just kind of how it works. Like you just kind of adjust to the new timings by yourself. You're like, I think I can delay my scores by another 15 seconds, or how many links do I really need? Like he doesn't really have continuous Hellion production. Now, of course, we do see the Overlord Scout coming in, does manage to spot the battle cruiser, or at least I think it assumes it's a battle cruiser.
Yeah. Not
it
really.
could, in theory, be a fake Tech Lab with Liberator range.
I guess, and then you kill the Overlord, you start Lib range.
Yeah, exactly. That would be the real play.
Yeah, that'd be something pretty unique, right?
That would be something pretty unique, and that's why it's so powerful, Wardy. Now we do have a 30C on the way in the wall on the natural.
And double gases on the natural too, so he's going to make more than one BC, and he's going to be playing mech again, basically. So no bio at all from INnoVation in this entire series.
What a guy. And here I was after game 1, basically like, alright, mech is dead, boys, time to move on. Yeah. Ooh, good ling run by here. Luckily one Hellion is about to finish up. There still was a second Hellion as well. Depot gets lifted and this doesn't do anything. These are the ling run bys that can be really annoying if they're timed well, If there's no Hellion there at the moment, then just like that, boom, you lose like 4 or 5 workers and he gets another full scout practically. BC teleports across the map straight away. Spore isn't ready yet. This is going to be real painful, isn't it? He's going to need to do a full drone pool. I don't think he can stay. Decides to target the first queen rather than the drones.
I don't mind the queen because it opens up potential later, right? If you're killing a couple of queens now, your next BC becomes that much more powerful as well. And you're keeping queens, taking queens away from defending Hellions maybe as the drones. On the third base, obviously the Roaches are here. Finally the Hellions getting a shot onto what was a big line of drones for a long time. Only 7 workers killed, but this BC is still very healthy in the main base, so that's a massive problem. Spire is going to be done soon, so the only thing for INnoVation that's probably going to save soO is that he can't teleport the second BC across the map to join this fight, because it would die to the Corruptors. You know, because then he can't teleport away in time. So that's the one thing that's really going to save soO here. As he goes across the map with Roaches, the second BC should just be moving out the front itself to go and defend that.
Yeah, I mean, Spire is out as well. Like, you don't really want to blink into that, right?
Yeah.
The thing I'm wondering about actually is if it's worth to kill the queens, right? The queen has what 175 HP, drone 40, so every queen you kill could have been 4.5 drone basically.
That's true.
And you can rebuild queens, which is cheaper, and so unless you get a very high energy queen, I don't really think it's worth it. And I think in this case he probably would have been able to get more than just the 4.5 drones. I think he would have been able to get like 6-7 drones there very easily if he wouldn't have targeted the queen.
Yeah. I think the Spore being up is on the Spore not being up is the big thing, right? That's the moment where
yeah,
absolutely go after drones.
Yeah.
But maybe
100%.
INnoVation is just not used to like the Spore's not being up, right? Because it's almost like, you know, this one something that happens in like this series because the BCs have typically been later. So then so's maybe not quite as on top of the timing or so, even though he scouted it. And you know, then his Spore crawl is a little bit late. So typically maybe those Spores are up all the time and well, whatever, as we do see a couple of siege tanks on the way up from the main base. INnoVation moving full on into this mech play. I look at just already like the work account, 65 to 64. soO building more Roach Ravager. Here's the BCs, drop the Yamalas and teleport away. It feels like soO this time really just wants to go and bust INnoVation down, rather than tacking up in towards the infestation pit and rather than moving towards Swarm Host, at least initially.
It worked well the first game, didn't it? That was really pure Roach Ravager Corruptor, eventually complemented by a couple of Banes, you know, like that was and it looked powerful, but this timing feels pure Roach Corruptor. I thought he was going to try to hit a +1 timing, but soO has different plans as he's already moving in. He's going to try to snipe a battle cruiser as well, try to get a tank. Does get
so
one tank.
Tanks.
There's too many tanks here.
There's so many tanks. He kills one of them, and that's about it, because there's only 4 Ravagers, so you can only kill one tank with every volley of Corrosive Biles. And with the missile turret there as well, the couple of them, it just helps so much to keep those Corruptors pushed back. And it's the same on the right-hand side. There's a missile turret over here. Tanks are still sieged up, so he's going to dive forwards. Corrosive Biles initially will, get one siege tank pretty early, but even the Corruptor count is just disappearing, so the BCs are going to kill everything else as a follow-up. Those Ravagers get chased away, Roaches get chased away. I mean, he's rebuilding more Corruptors. He absolutely needs to, because he's only got 2 on the map. He'll only be on 8, which is really not enough.
Yeah, and there's 2 Yamatos available, so even if 5 more join this little party, like he needs to get up to like 14, 15 Corruptors at this point. Now, I don't think 10 is enough. Like, you'll lose 3 almost immediately, then you're stuck with like 6, 7 Corruptors. You can barely fight battle cruisers without repair, but with repair, you're just gonna die. You have 4 CC on the way. Once again, soO somehow manages to find ways to mix in drones. A lot of the time when people play this kind of style, you see them really, like, they just hold down the roach key, and when it doesn't work, it's like, crap, well, still 65 workers. But soO, during all of this, managed to get up to 82. He's getting his +2. He's getting a 5th base. The one thing he's really lacking right now, Wardy, is creep spread.
Yeah, the creep spread is not anywhere near what it used to be in the previous games, and that's part because obviously INnoVation was a bit more active on the map earlier this time without the fast 40cc. He's going to drop him out. He's going to lose 1 BC here though. Just took a couple of shots before he lined up the Yamato. And obviously with the Queens there too, so that little bit of extra damage out, but it might not have gone away even if it had dropped the Yamato like instantly. So loses 1 BC, a little bit of a shame, but man, those BCs have been so good so far. It's not like end of the world territory, as we have got Command Center coming up to the left-hand side, taking the left-hand 4th base here initially. So we'll make this very hard to push into this left-hand base because there's only one avenue you can attack into it, right? Like, you can't come from the 3rd base location. Whereas the base on the right side, you can kind of come down that ramp you mentioned earlier, and from the right-hand side. So it makes this 4th base very difficult to kill.
Yeah, I like these rocks going down though. I think it allows for an extra rotation, a quicker rotation, not even necessarily from 4th to 3rd, but also just from the 4th to that natural area. Like, otherwise you'd need to run around. It's not viable, definitely not viable. Some good biles actually coming down, bunch of tanks falling extremely quickly. Corruptors are going in as there's only 2 battle cruisers remaining. 1 battle cruiser falls immediately, so there's no teleport, no repair being used. Tutor's joined the fray right now. will be able to hopefully deter these Corruptors. No, once again, no repair on these battle cruisers.
Yeah.
Very
Very
sloppy
weird.
play. This was only 8 Corruptors, 7 Corruptors. Like, you can definitely out-repair that. I think you can out-repair 12 Corruptors or 13 Corruptors. Something like that. So, up until that point, as long as you repair with enough SCVs, there's absolutely no issue.
And one of the differences on this fight was just the extra Ravager count, so he was able to take down more than just the first siege tank really quickly. And then INnoVation had to pull the rest of his tanks over that weren't initially sieged either, so he just gave soO a little time to get in position on that fight, get some damage done. Now he's going to just back away, he's going to max out. 92 works from both players here, so they're both on high economy, building up banks as they go. And obviously the armies are going to be smaller, but it really makes for a very kind of scrappy game where they're both going to want to keep on trading to then use up their banks and to build up again.
Yeah. Now we do see 3 extra factories on the way. No extra CCs being added yet, but the moment hits max, of course he'll try to do that. soO once again trying to push forward, but there's so many tanks, and these bad boys are gonna have their +2 upgrade finishing in a couple of seconds. From that point on, it's gonna be real difficult.
And that's where the Great Aspire comes into play to switch it up. I mean, INnoVation scans it, and that's just nice confirmation to know, okay, you are thinking of going Brutes. I'm not wrong to add on a couple more Thors here and there, because Thors really have become the absolute go-to to kill those Brute Lords. So, he already has a good Thor count, seeing the Great Aspire, he might build a couple more. He's also going to add on 2 more Starports, so it looks like he will start to compete for the air control a bit more, probably because he sees there's not been like a massive Corruptor so far, like there's only 7 on the map still, so it's not like he's going from, nothing to try and fight against like this massive air army. It's very manageable to kind of get in reach of, a Viking count that can be competitive in the skies.
So what do you think he gets from the Starports? Is it just Viking or is it Liberator?
I think I think you just go mostly Vikings. Maybe you get like 1 or 2 Ravens just for the anti-armor missile. I think for the moment you really just go Vikings and try and build up something that can not just shoot down the Cryptors, but you're probably expecting Vipers here as well. And so shoot down those Vipers also, because the Vipers have been something as this Hellion Rimby does a lot of damage. But the Vipers lately, well, more so than like Abducts or Parasitic Bombs, they've been using Blinding Clouds on Thors to stop them from hitting the Brutes. So I think the Viking count here very important to have up, because if those Blinding Clouds get off repeatedly, this Thor count's going to go down too much, and then the Brood Lords really have an opportunity to overwhelm.
We see getting very close to the big 100 mark on SCVs, which means his army is tiny, but his income is going to be absolutely massive. 4 extra CCs being added, and this is kind of how you want to play, right? You want to get a big influx of money initially, and then you start adding the CCs, so you can start getting rid of the SCVs, but you keep the big income. So we do see 2 orbitals already being added, and there's another planetary will be going down on that 6th base. There's a base flying towards the 7th, so because there's no creep, it's really easy for to mass expand basically, and also because soO's army is so small comparatively to last games where he had a lower drone count. Just feels a lot more confidence in his army, and I think he should. I don't really see soO taking a winning fight anytime soon. He might try to abduct a unit here and there, but the pressure is very little compared to the past games.
The creep spread isn't on his front doorstep either, which just means he's got that little bit more breathing room. And he is expanding quickly everywhere as well, so that worker count is definitely justified. He's making use of it. Here we go for this push in. The missile turrets go down fast enough so that he can come in pretty safely here. A few Banes rolling through, and some SCVs will go down. This entire base goes down just because wasn't really expecting this attack at all. I don't think he had a sensor tower that really kind of warned him about this far enough in advance. There's actually a Thor attack going down the bottom right-hand side, and well, soO's already pulling back home, so that shouldn't be too difficult to deal with, and INnoVation realizes they're pulling it back away, knowing he won't deal damage in time to justify the cost of those Thors.
Yeah, this is kind of annoying for though, because he was still so heavily investing into those orbitals, so he rather have this happen in like a minute or 2 when he's completely set up, and he can catch this kind of loss way easier. Right now, sure, his income is very high, but after these 5 extra command centers finish, like, he's gonna be in one hell of a position, I can assure you that, my friend.
And his spells get caught, the whole army coming up the top right. INnoVation probably won't move to defend this planetary fortress, I imagine. He'll be able to cancel the CC on the low ground. It's just not a position you immediately have to defend, especially when you're trying to make sure your left side bases come back up and online. And he is just going to push down the left, saying, well, you're a bit out of position right now. I'm going to move forwards. Broodlord's starting to morph in. What is in the skies, though? 3 Vipers and 9 Corruptors. And he's morphing 4 Broods. I don't really feel like that's enough to make something proper happen here at all, really.
I felt it before, but every single time I think that, then soO just somehow kills a complete tank Thor army with 3 Ravagers. So it's really quite impressive how well he does against these big armies, which what seems to be relatively little. And I mean, he seems to be knowing what he's doing. You know, his movement is quite good. Really, the only thing lacking at the moment is the creep strat.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't mind seeing him go down in workers at this point a little bit, you know? 77 workers when you already have basically an 8k, 4k bank is perhaps a little too high.
He's going in Neural Parasites. He's got plans to improve this over time as well into, you know, a few Infestors, etc. No pantry on that top left-hand side at the moment is allowing the Zerglings to do more than he would have liked them to. I mean, he loses 8 workers at the same time, soO loses a few drones, but like you said, it's that stage of the game I'd going down a few workers. He's got an 8k, 4k bank. There is no harm in actually just having a bit more supply free for army.
Yeah. Totally agree. And Inno is pushing forward as his worker count is also getting lower. His army is growing stronger and stronger every single minute, basically. He's completely upgraded, at least on the ground. Still could use 1 extra attack upgrade in the air, but I mean, this looks scary for soO to deal with. Like, soO's army isn't that big, you know? He has a lot of money, but Jesus, these piles are so good. You see that?
Yeah, they did so much.
It's so crazy.
I'm so surprised that soO feels safe with these Broodlords when there's so many Vikings in the sky. Like, he's leaving no Corruptors up. Like, he's adding 5 more. There's just so many Vikings. But, I mean, obviously it's working because INnoVation is not finding the fight. So...
yeah, it's not like a small Broodlord count either, you know? This is 14, 13 Broodlords. Like, this is a big investment into the Broodlord army, and he can't really rebuild this army either, I feel like, right? Like it's too expensive to rebuild an army like this. He can go into another Roach Bane army, but not another Broodlord Corruptor Viper army. Like, this is a big, expensive army, and I'm not gonna say it's gonna come down to one fight, but the one fight that they'll have with these 2 armies is going to be extremely important as we see a Ravager run by onto a planetary. You know, a lot of Zergs know how many Banelings you need to one-shot a planetary, but how many Biles do you need to one-shot a planetary? Does anyone know that?
yeah, it's 25.
25?
Yeah.
It's quick math there, Wardy. Unbelievable.
That's why
You just...
I did
your engineering degree coming in handy here. Simple division.
Bottom left base gets sniped down, as you see the army of INnoVation pressing forwards. I mean, so little creep spread here, right? So INnoVation's getting very far forwards very easily. Infestors have a big role to play. Those Neural Parasites are going to be huge, but that's where, you know, these siege tanks come into play as well. If they can target fire down the Infestors and get rid of the, you know, the kind of part of that there, that's massive. Good first parasitic bomb split from INnoVation. A lot of the Thors, though, caught up and not able to fire. There's the Neural Parasites coming down. But again, there's just all of these Vikings are unanswered for, so these Broodlords really aren't going to last very long at all. And now the Thors, well, they have to dodge away from some Biles, but once those Biles are gone, I mean, these Ravagers are just going to get destroyed. INnoVation crushes this army. It's like you said, what do you rebuild from here? Well, 50 Zerglings initially, but then, you know, maybe they clean up this army because it's not good against Lings. But then what are those Lings going to do? They're not going to stay in the game and, you know, be super useful. INnoVation really wins out here because he takes down all of them tech units, and I mean, actually, I feel like even with the Lings streaming in right now, Vikings on the ground might help a lot with that.
Yeah, I wish there was... oh, there's 4 Hellions on the way. If these can come before the Lings arrive, no, they won't. So this actually is going to be a little bit expensive here for Inno, but he has so much money, and wow, holy crap, Thors are good.
Yeah, it was. I actually think the Vikings just took down so many more of the Lings than originally expected. I mean, now these Hellions just kite away. soO is going to rebuild 12 Corruptors. He rebuilt about 6 Broods already. So he is going to have maybe 1 more of these kind of awesome armies, but the thing is, Inno's army is already back to what it was as well, right? Good amount of Thors, a couple tanks coming in to try and zone out Infestors. Viking count is still reasonable, actually, for Vikings. If he was still building more, it would be still reasonable to kind of compete with what the Zerg has.
I think it's fine though. There's only 6 Brutes at the moment. Thor should be able to deal with that. And the real issue right now is the top right base, as there was a bunch of Mules there. 4 Lings actually managed to take out 6 Mules, which drastically will decrease INnoVation's income. But yeah, I mean, Inno will just be able to max out and max out again and again. As look how many orbitals is there on the map here? There's 10 orbitals on the map.
It's crazy.
It's infinite scans, infinite mules. Ravagers are trying to get that top base, but actually get caught by these Hellions. Well, not sure who catches who there, but it looks terrifying for the Hellions. There's a bunch of Thors back them up now, and this really is the only mining base for soO at the moment, isn't it? This
bottom left base
right
is dying to Vikings as well.
Yeah.
So that's really annoying. He's losing a lot of workers over here. These Vikings are going crazy. They're killing the spine crawlers. I mean, some of them weren't burrowed. And INnoVation's just going to back away, and these Vikings probably would do better if they just flew home rather than walking up, which is Ravage will catch those, which is nice. But now the Roach Ravager out here, well, it's only Hellions that are nearby, so it's not a major problem. As INnoVation, this is the thing, INnoVation is maxed out, and soO's at 170 supply, so his army supply is good for now. There's going to be no rebuilding from INnoVation, from soO, sorry. Because he just doesn't have any gas, he doesn't have the drones to really build up an army. So when he fights, soO has to really overwhelm INnoVation. Otherwise, INnoVation is just going to be, you know, if it's any sort of even trade, INnoVation just builds up, maxes up, and then he's going to overrun soO with the second wave of attacks. So soO, this next fight is so important for him to stay in the game.
Yeah, and I just don't see it going very well.
No,
for him.
I don't either.
We have a split army situation here. One of the mining bases does get killed. I mean, the 4 o'clock is still mining, but only with 10 drones. Like, the income of soO is just... It's one base income at this point, right? 900 minerals per minute, that's literal one base income. In the meantime, we have INnoVation, even without mules, is comfortably on 2.8, 3k income. And once the mules start raining down once again, if a new base is there, he goes up to 4.5k income per minute. And I mean, his bank is absolutely massive. Nothing has happened over the past 2 minutes, and that's good for Inno. His bank is growing, and soO is just shrinking and shrinking.
Yep, 15 Broodlords are the one scary thing on the map, but obviously there's 10 Thors already. So maybe, again, Broods with the Neural Parasite from the Infestors, right? Because then if you take off the Thors out of the equation with the Neural, maybe the Broods can overrun. But that's basically like soO's only hope, and there is just no real mining here. So as long as INnoVation is able to, maybe counterattack at the same time, kill off that army, he can just buy time to rebuild and again go once more.
Yeah, the problem is that Inno can actually build this army twice. If you take a look at the army value, he actually has the money ready to replace this army, and he has the infrastructure ready to replace the army. 8 factories, 3 starports. I mean, you're spending 3 to 4k a minute there, which basically means within a minute and a half, 2 minutes, you have your completely maxed army back.
Yeah,
it's absolutely mad. Now we do have some nice maneuvers with these Hellions trying to get some damage done, and here Inno comes towards that right side base, which is practically mined out at this point. I mean, there's still 4 or 5 patches that really have something, and see some scans coming out of Inno, completely aware of where the army is, and he's not afraid.
Did a great job with the Hellions, right? Brings a lot of the army over to the left side, makes it look like he's focusing on the left, and then boom, hits the right, gets out of there. Maybe soO can force a fight here. Thor's trying to back off. He is going to turn around. There's the Blinding Clouds. Now the Neural Parasites will come down too. Because of the Blinding Clouds, there's no tank fire onto those Infestors. They get a lot of the Neurals off. This entire Terran army is currently owned by the Zerg. Everything that's left, so the Broodlords will overwhelm this. That was kind of the first fight that soO needed.
This was the first fight that soO needed. Now he will need to take down 1 or 2 bases, and he can't lose his own bases, and then he needs another fight exactly like that.
Yeah.
Like just exactly like that. And I mean, he's pulling ahead in units lost, which is good. Well, he's behind in units lost, which is good, I guess. We see 5 extra Thors in production. We see a couple of extra Vikings in production. And this is basically INnoVation's second draft, right? He will lose all the bases right now as 8 more mutants actually rain down on top of the planetary. And soO isn't sure if he wants to go back to defend against the Hellion run-bys, or if he needs to, stay with his Broodlords, decides to go back with the Roaches at least.
Yeah, Hellbats over here are pretty dangerous, right? Because they will do a lot. And as INnoVation loses workers, okay, like he doesn't have as big a bank as before, but he still has a bank. soO has nothing in the bank. And yeah, his army is still a bit larger right now. This hatchery is target fireable by the Thor, doesn't get it. It's a little bit of a shame. I mean, soO's just struggling for further money, so if again, he has to just win these next couple of fights. INnoVation's out of minerals, in fairness. But all it takes is, one base to drop some mules and he's got them back.
Yeah, and the problem is he still has like 15 CCs that he can float at any given time, basically. So you see a bunch of orbitals flying across the map. Like he loses a planetary bottom left. That's nice. It's going to be 25 mules on the top right base. He's going to have a 5k income again in a couple of seconds if he truly wants to. More CCs are being built and Inno is maxed again. Like, sure, if soO keeps fighting like this, he might have a chance. Like he did completely deplete the bank of INnoVation, but there's still a massive gas bank and minerals aren't hard to come by for Inno. Like they really aren't. There's still 10 orbital commands for you. Jesus.
Yeah, and he's up to 50 SCVs again against the 21 drones. It's the thing, soO didn't have the bank to rebuild workers either, even if he wanted to try and go for it. He just didn't have any money, so here we are. Just going to be seeing Hellbats.
This feels scary though for Inno. I don't think he should be on this side of the map. I think he should be semi-base trading, you know?
Yeah.
Just every time soO moves out, you take like something from his side of the map and you expand on the other side. Like he has so many orbitals and there's no real need for Inno to fight at the moment. I mean, what's the point?
There's no point, right? I mean, the only thing that can happen here for it, I mean, yes, Inno can win this fight, but he can also just lose this fight terribly, right? And then, that's the one thing soO's looking for. So he's pushing forwards. I mean, he's being very careful about picking the fight, right? He's not going up the ramp. He's going to sit away. He has the scans preemptively, so he sees where the infestors are. But again, why not just throw some more Hellbats at this base that's rebuilt on the left side, because then soO is really not going to mind. And that forces soO to the left side, and that opens up the right side for attack. And again, soO doesn't have the army that can go left to right to deal with that, because he only has a handful of Roaches and Ravagers left.
Definitely. And this is what we were talking about, by the way. Now, during all of this, Inno already has 4.5k in the bank already, so he is ready to fight. soO might be ready to fight some good Blinding Clouds. Infestor's not in the perfect position. He's actually getting Vikings instead of any of the Thor, so this fight should be getting a lot worse here for soO, who's dropping heavily in supply. He still might be able to take down INnoVation's army, but there's still so many Vikings in the air, and there's no ground units remaining.
Yeah, he can't get rid of these Vikings, and if he does, it's with the Queens, which takes so long that all the Broodlords are going to be dead. And as INnoVation begins to rebuild, soO also lost 12 workers during this fight as well, so he's actually down to 9 drones, 20 minerals in the bank, and the Vikings are even going to land to help out against these Queens, and it turns out Vikings landing against Queens with a Thor showing up actually does pretty well as well. So he's going to end up taking down the space, which is pretty much mined out anyways. I mean, again, we've kind of said this story and the outcomes 100 times, but now it's actually happening. INnoVation has enough to close this out. This was really great mech play by INnoVation throughout this. Obviously not so much in game 1 where he lost from a lead, but like games 2 and 3, he really had a really solidified plan throughout.
Really patient.
Yeah, very patient.
Really patient. And you could see that he was really planning for long games by his SCV count, like this was the plan basically from the start on out. Like he was at 100 SCVs at some point. I mean, this guy is absolutely bananas. GG gets called, INnoVation wins game number 3 and secures himself a spot in the qualifying round.